I live in Berlin since 2017. I graduated experimental film here at the University of Fine Arts. Before this, I was studying painting in Zagreb in Croatia. So in short, I would say my practice takes these two mediums of painting and experimental film, and I work mainly within the gaming environments, spatial practices that include also architecture and performing arts. For the last 3 years, I've been working on a series of experimental films titled Sites of Encounter. The film explores the intersection between spatial memory and architecture within games. And the narrative follows a group of characters, their intimate dialogues as they navigate through contemporary working conditions. So they talk mainly about work and death, but there are other things that bothers them, like where to get a coffee, or how to break up with someone you love a lot, or how to get fired, or yeah, they also talk about the bridges, they talk about offices, and they talk about bridges, offices, and factories. The whole cinematic arrangement lasts for 54 minutes, and I wanted to show some of that. I will share my screen. But before the further introduction, what else to say? Yes, the characters are waving the spatial and temporal elements, and they're activating the archival memory. So finally, at the end of the whole piece, they start to see themselves as space. So the whole work deals with the transformation. It deals with the radical change. It deals with metamorphosis, where you have a certain internal voices, internal dialogues inside of your own head, and you get out of your own head and you start to see your own surroundings. So you become more aware about surrounding that you are part of. This is what happens to the characters. They are transformed, they metamorphose from a subjective perspective to a more objective constellation of things. It's more about the stack of the murmur and the chatter of human thoughts, sociologies, biologies, geographies. They are all intertwined. They're all merged. The layers are connected. So I would like to show the first 4 minutes. I won't be talking much, and then you can ask me questions and I will have something else to say. Share the screen. I'm sharing the screen. I hope you can see it. Katarina, can you see my screen?
Yeah. Yes, we see. I see.
No. This is just, yeah. So, if you can hear me well still, I will continue. These are the scenes from the last part of the Sites of Encounter. I have composed the whole piece as in theater. So you have scenes and acts. There are 3 scenes, and each scene has 3 different acts. At this moment, we are looking at scene 3, which is titled Factories. And They are the compositions, which are very still images done within Unity engine. I produce 3D models and I use some of the photogrammetries of geological material that I have found online to compose very, very rigid, very strict scenes. They are actually images, and the only thing that is moving is the atmosphere, for example, the dust particles or the wind. There is the sound. And what we don't hear these voices, and we don't see the dialogues. I didn't want to spoil everything because you will have to go to the Galleria Quartil to see the whole thing, and it would be maybe too chaotic for me to speak and while this is going on. So the dialogues are out, and now you can only see the images that are going one after another. So they're pulsating, not much is happening. I wanted to achieve a certain atmosphere of comfortable boredom. It's a 54 minutes, very, very smooth, very low paced, with no action, with not much movement. And every now and then there are certain thoughts, there are certain dialogues happening. Talking about the structure, the narrative and dramaturgical structure of the piece. So there are three parts. In the first part, the characters are in the office. And as we follow their conversation, we assume that there are two, it's two of them. And I wanted to start with the classic breakup type of conversation of two people who are in love but are falling apart. And I wanted to work with these very simple love story elements, but to put them in a working environment, in the office. And office is also on fire. Something is happening. We don't know exactly what it is. And they start to talk about architecture. They start to talk about relationship of architecture and archives. So they are looking for the archive of the working records of people who have been there before them. And then they start to use these spatial structures to activate the archive of memory. What they finally, in the end, find is that the most important thing is who owns the archive. And every time they encounter a certain concept that they themselves cannot understand, they have to transform. They come to the border of, let's say, the border of understanding, the final frontier of understanding the situation, and then they transform. And in the first part, they change into sparrows. So first they are two, but then they become more. They become a multiplicity, a simple, mundane sparrows. An interesting thing about sparrows is that sparrows live only in close vicinity of human environment. Sparrows live only with architecture. You cannot find sparrows in the desert, in the jungle, in the forest. And sparrows somehow live in a symbiosis with human settlements and human architecture. And I found that interesting. Here we can think about the whole ecosystem, and sparrows being one more funny or more cuter part of the whole dystopian setting. In the second part, the characters are smugglers. They are migrant workers working on the border between European Union and Balkan. I took those characters to the construction of the Pelješac Bridge, which was happening for the past few years. That was very interesting because I grew up in that area. I grew up in the Neum corridor in Dubrovnik and Metković. So I was transitioning these borders throughout my childhood a lot. And I wanted somehow to work with this local context of having just more than one national identity, and what does this bridge mean globally? It was very interesting because the Pegasus Bridge, is the first Chinese project that was successfully implemented in the European Union as part of the Belt and Road Initiative. So it's a global initiative, the global Chinese initiative of building infrastructure. Another thing, bridges generally connect, and this particular bridge also separates. It separates the European Union from the less sexy Europeans, which are in this case barbarian Balkans. So I'm taking this funny, cartoony, anime type of characters who don't understand nothing. They don't understand all of these big geopolitical topics, just like in the first part. Again, these are the characters that just don't understand anything, but in order to get somewhere, they have to transform. And in the last part, we are looking at the scenes from the last part. The characters, one character really needs a job, needs to pay the debt, needs to pay the university debt, and he has a friend, and the friend suggests to make a contract with one startup company, which helps you to pay off your debt, but you make a contract so that your body, after you die, when you are dead in your afterlife, your body is extracted through some cryptocurrency technology, and chemical components help to build the forest. Later, the forest is used as a wood material for other infrastructures, and the cryptocurrencies goes back into your life, into your wallet, and it pays off any debt. So you give your body in the hand of a company, and then you can just make more debt while you are alive. In this case, there is like a circular economy happening, and we are playing or making fun of this transcendentalism that is very apparent in contemporary technologies. For me, for example, I cannot understand the distinction between virtual and real. These are the things that I don't work with. And the transcendentalism as a concept happens to come from more religious or old European, let's say, philosophical concepts that I think is corrupting the technology that we are using. And for me, this technology or these realities are as real as any other reality, and as valid as any other. It's just a different display. It's a different manifestation of all valid and heterogeneous realities. What else to say? I would say that working with gaming engines to produce filmmaking helps me to articulate this idea. And I would say that I think I see gaming, I see virtual realities as more as built environments, more as constructed environments, and less as virtual entities. And working on this project, I wanted to just make that point more clear and to think about the existing technologies as just material infrastructures which are part of the bigger, let's say, which are part of the bigger constellations in this sense, or in this case, global constellations. Just a few more things. It's the whole piece is 54 minutes long. I'm presenting in Galeria Quartil 3-part modulation. So every part is 18-minute long. And we have done this in collaboration with VHV Collective in Zagreb. The whole exhibition was curated by Ana Kovačić and with the support of Ana Dević in Galeria Nova in Zagreb in June. And I was collaborating with the graphic designer Andro Junio. So we took a graphic map and we separated graphic map in 9 smaller parts. Then in 3 integral parts, we turned into some kind of a wooden setup, which something that you will also see in Galeria Quartil. These are the wooden carriers for the screen. So just to point a little bit where each scene is happening as a physical, more like a physical manifestation, like a physical sensation, let's say. And I wanted to use this cheap material, the wooden material that you would see on a construction site. And in December, finally in December, I will continue working with architecture, but differently. In Zagreb, I will do a project that deals with the archives and heritage of Yugoslavian architect Vjenceslav Richter. I will work with some of his projects that include the Brussels Pavilion from 1958 and National Museum in Aleppo from 1968. I will take these 2 buildings from a modernist heritage of Yugoslavia and will continue working with this idea of connecting gaming and architecture, where architecture and gaming has a narrative role. And that will be, for me personally, somehow the final wrap up of this 3 or 4 year long research, and hopefully next year I will be doing something completely different.